Welcome to the Sales Lead Dog Podcast, hosted by CRM technology and sales process expert Christopher Smith, talking with sales leaders that have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. Listen to find out how the best of the best achieve success with their team and CRM technology. And remember, unless you are the lead dog, the view never changes.
Welcome to Sales Lead Dog. My guest for today is Kramer. Kara is the head of sales for Raptor. Kara, welcome to Sales Lead Dog.
I'm so happy to be here. I can't wait to get into what we're going to chat about.
Yeah, I'm excited for this episode. And for those of you that are watching this on YouTube, you'll know that she has a very interesting background behind her, that it's the first for the show. And I really like it a lot. So
yeah, it fits for Vantor. Because at the core, we're a geospatial company with 20 satellites in orbit. So I had to go with the space background.
Oh, no, I love it. Yeah. So tell us about the business.
Yeah. So it's a fantastically, it's one of those businesses that you've actually seen and interacted with already in your life and you didn't know it. When you're watching the news and they're showing imagery, a lot of times down in the corner, there's been a logo that said Vantor, or in the past, it said Maxar, which used to be our company's name. Or when you're using maps and all other kinds of avenues of your life, you don't even know when you're touching maps that came from our satellites. We have had commercial satellites up in orbit since 1999. We were the first company to do that. And so we've earned a lot of trust globally by being able to provide that source of truth. Because that's really what geospatial imagery is. It's truth. It's like what's actually happening at that time and place. And how are we reconciling that against things you see in the news or reports that are coming out on social media. What comes off the satellite imagery is usually that source of truth.
Yeah. It is amazing to me, especially over the last 10 years, that geospatial imaging has opened up so many other opportunities for other businesses to provide really incredible services to their customers.
Absolutely.
So I love how you described your business. Like you're using it, you don't even know it. That's
exactly.
So true.
Yeah. Yeah, you're interacting with it because for years we've been providing that data across enterprises, across government organizations, and that data has become the base of a lot of products that users are interacting with. And in the past few years, we have pivoted towards creating our own software offerings using our geospatial data, because really we have a deep understanding of how people have been interacting with it and what the pain points are for that. And that's sort of where the Raptor product was born, is knowing that we have this body of data. There is a real world emerging problem with drones getting jammed, and that we can combine those and create a product that would solve that problem.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I mean, just some basic things that I've come across in my world of in the old days, roofers, like I need to get my roof replaced. Okay, we got to send someone out to do a quote. They're going to measure and all that. Now, they're just pulling up a satellite image of your home, doing all this stuff, and you're getting a quote from them in an hour, 15, 20 minutes sometimes, because everything they need, it's right there. Agriculture, it's huge in agriculture.
It's huge in agriculture and, oil and gas and all kinds of industries. You don't even think about how important it is to know what the terrain looks like. Yeah. How can you optimize the terrain if you can't see it?
Yeah, no, it's so we're excited to have you on here. I'm excited. So let's dive in. Kara, when you look back over your career and you can boil it down to 3 things that have really driven and led to your success, what would those 3 things be?
I think the cornerstone of my career, and it's been the driving force, is mission. And when I say mission, I mean national security mission. And that has always been present in my life. And when I was a freshman in college, on a cloudless, beautiful September morning, Tuesday morning, I changed from thinking that I was going to do anything other than support that national security mission when I saw the attacks of 9/11. And so since that day, I have been solely focused on spending my time and energy on, how can I support that mission? Now, I'm not an engineer. I don't have those kind of deep technical skills, but I'm really good at connecting technology with warfighters and trying to bridge the bureaucracy. You'll hear the phrase bureaucracy hacking often in this community. And that's where I've been able to find where I can bring value is when there's a technology company that maybe isn't comfortable selling into the United States government or into international governments. And then and those government users have a need, a capability gap that could be fixed by that technology. And then putting those two together, that's where I've been able to serve the mission the most. And in the past, probably 4 or 5 years, I've been really focused on drones. And what happened in Ukraine has really expedited that feeling of mission, because now it's not just national security, it's also this global security mission that I'm able to support through what I do. Because like most people who do sales and sales leadership, I'm not working, 40 hours a week. And so for the passion and the pace that I'm going to work, I want it to go to that broader mission. So that's the one. That's probably the big one. And then the second one is going to be obviously family as being like that big driver. I think a lot of us do this because of the opportunities they can afford, our family. And I have 2 daughters, and I want them to I want them to grow up with their mother, in the boardroom, in the front of a meeting, in a really male-dominated industry, which I think everyone, especially in the drone and the military industry, can readily admit that there's not many women in leadership. So I want my daughters to grow up seeing that. And then lastly, it's the people. When you're working, especially in defense tech, you hit these moments of this flow when you get the right team together and you're working. And I've credited almost like the same feeling you get when you're cutting wrapping paper and your scissors start to glide. You get these moments when you're in these groups of these exceptional people that are working to solve these really important problems. And for all the friction and all the stress that you can get for the high stakes environment, it's those moments of flow that really make it worthwhile.
Yeah, it really does. I love your number one. Getting personal here, family friend was on the second plane, and and my birthday is on September 11th. And so any of us that even lived in that area, I went to school at Rutgers in New Jersey. I have so many friends that live on Staten Island and in New York area that it's just this web of connections. And so thank you for, everyone that's made it that mission, that we live in a different world now.
We do.
And it's very important that there's people out there that have this mission. So thank you.
Yeah, it was a paradigm shift day.
Oh yeah, big time, big time. So you said you never envision yourself in a life of sales. What was your vision for yourself before you embarked on this journey?
I was actually going to go to veterinary school and do that. So everything I did, in high school was very focused on like biology courses. I worked at veterinary hospitals. I interned at the Equine Medical Center. And I was actually in animal and poultry sciences as my major when 9/11 happened. So I literally pivoted from the cow pen to, a classroom environment and, focus more on internships in SCIFs than internships in the barn.
Right. So tell me about your first sales job. Why do you think they hired you?
So I actually think that one of the reasons I credit that I got into sales and BD is because I worked at a consulting firm where it was not optional. Everybody did sales. And I don't know that I would have ever raised my hand and said I would be good at sales, because there's a lot of things that I'm not good at. Like I am horrible at remembering names. I am making phone calls makes me sweat. And there's a lot of things about like how I, feel about sales that wouldn't make me raise my hand and say, I think I'd be good at this. But it was the fact that everybody did it. Everybody helped with the proposals. Everybody helped with capture, that it exposed me to it in a way where it clicked that I did have a value that I could bring to this. And so, being a consultant at Booz Allen Hamilton, I'll name drop them because every consultant at Booz Allen does sales. Everybody is expected to support proposals. That's really was the exposure that gave me the first taste that I never really looked back and wanted to do anything else.
Yeah. Hey, we're taking a quick break to thank you for listening to and supporting the Sales Lead Dog podcast. I want to take a moment and tell you about my book, CRM Shouldn't Suck. If your CRM feels more like a black hole for data than something that actually helps your team sell, you're not alone. The book breaks down why CRMs fail for so many businesses and what you can do about it. No fluff, just real strategies that work. So go to crmshouldn'tsuck.com to order your free copy right now. That's right, we're giving it away. And while you're there, take 2 minutes to check out the CRM Impact Score. It's a quick diagnostic that shows you how your CRM is really performing, where it's helping you and where it's hurting you. You'll get a personalized report with clear, actionable next steps you can start right away to maximize your CRM investment. We've also got blogs, videos, and a bunch of other resources to help you finally get the results you were promised when you bought your CRM. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes of Sales Lead Dog. Okay, let's get back to this episode of the Sales Lead Dog podcast. What was the hardest thing for you at that time, the skill to build that you now you've mastered?
I think the hardest skill to build was understanding how programs happen in the federal government and how do you go from meeting with someone in the government to responding to a bid. To me, that was a black hole. Yeah. And I wanted to know how it worked. And at the time, I was supporting acquisitions for the F-18 program office at PAC Server, PMA 265. I was doing all the slides of all the program reporting, and it's a lot of money goes into these programs. And I was just kind of really intrigued by how does the government decide how much money these programs need? How do they decide who are their contractors for it? And so that diving into that and understanding the how that's where I spent the most amount of my time when I first started.
Yeah. Yep. It is, for those of you who have never sold to the government, it is a totally different animal from private enterprise or really anything else. It's very unique, totally different set of challenges. Like you're saying, there's a depth of knowledge you need to have to be successful. So I'm always impressed by people that, live in that world, because it is so different. It's very challenging. The sales cycles are very long. We have one client right now that sells into the government. They have sales cycles that are 3 years long. It's not uncommon.
No.
At all.
And yeah, because the federal government budget, the FIDEP is 3 years at a time. So yeah, 3 years is not unusual. And the really fun part is that the rules never stay the same. So there's no point where you're going to be like, I'm done, I've got it. Right. Because you can learn how federal acquisition regulations work, like FAR contracts. And then now all of a sudden, nobody wants to do FAR contracts anymore. Now everybody wants to do OTAs, or they want to do commercial solutions openings. And so if you like that constant learning environment, it can be a really rewarding place to focus your attention.
Yeah, that I'm like one of those people. That's why I do what I do. Is I have to have new challenges. I have to have new experiences. Otherwise, I get very bored. Yes. And it definitely keeps me motivated. What keeps you motivated? It kept you motivated in that sales role when you were going through all of that.
It's the win that keeps me motivated. I don't need to win every time, but that feeling of the win drives me to the next win. And because generally, when you're working in a sales or business development role in the defense industry, your win is jobs for people that are in the offices next door to you, or it's if you're at a startup, it's whether or not your company is going to make it or not. And so those wins, you kind of chase that feeling, even if successful looks like 30% conversion. It's easier to deal with the losses when you have the wins to look forward to.
Yeah. Tell me about your transition into leadership. Was that something you wanted to pursue, or was that something they'd ask you to do?
So I actually got into leadership initially by moving from an established defense company to a startup. But you are naturally a leader because you're not just the leader, you're also the team of one. I used to joke that the hardest person I've ever had to manage was myself when I was a team of one. And so then as you're successful, you start bringing in your own team and you build it around you. So the leadership is a very gradual evolution that is really fueled by your own hard work and success. So I found that to be like a natural way to come into it, because you weren't trying to step in from an individual contributor role directly into like leading a team of 10. Right. It was a very gradual process.
Was that a difficult process? Were there a lot of learning hurdles that you had to overcome to become successful as a leader?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's it's hard to go from in my experience, it's really hard to go from being the team of one where you aren't delegating anything. You don't have to coordinate a bunch of things because you're just doing it all yourself. And
Yep.
it can feel untenable to be doing so many things by yourself. But it also can be a transition that you have to learn that other people do things in a different way than you do. They may have a different degree of urgency than you do, but that there are many roads lead to Rome is a good mindset I remind myself often. And so part of it's also learning to let go and learning to let people do things their way, and just sort of being more of that coach in the background versus the player next to them.
Right. So as you built your team and things evolved and now you're managing larger teams, how do you view your role as a leader and being successful as a leader?
So I think my primary job for my team is to be their shield from anything that's keeping them from getting their deals progressed through the pipeline or closed.
Mhm.
And so at a larger business, a lot of that comes into, what resources do you need that you not have? What processes are going too slowly for your customers' timelines, and where can I help? Because that's really where my value is for my team. I also want to be there as their sounding board. If they are stumped with something, maybe they've been hitting a wall on prospecting and they can't figure out why. Like let's talk it through. Give me your pitch that you're giving folks that's not resonating, and let's figure out how this can work. I don't want to do things for my team, but I do want to make sure that nothing is stopping them from doing their team. So that's my primary goal, is to be their shield.
Yep. I also hear you're also very much an enabler of them, a facilitator. By being that shield, you're also giving them the freedom to act on their own, and you're there to help them when you need it. When they
Yeah.
need it.
And I want them to be able to ask for what they need versus me having to know what they need. Like that's, I think, helps them to kind of own the whole process then.
Yeah.
Because then if problems get solved, if they don't even know, then they would be surprised if the problem came up the next time and I wasn't there to have removed it already for them.
Right. In your role as head of sales, how do you view yourself as differentiating what you guys do and how you fit, the value prop you provide to the marketplace? How do you view your role in enabling that for the company?
So I think my role at Vantor is really unique, and it's one of the reasons why I was so excited to step into this. Is I'm able to bring that drone background to this fantastic geospatial team, because we're not just coming out with the new product of Raptor, we're also kind of addressing a new market, so I'm able to bring that value to the team of, I have that OEM mindset of like, as an OEM, this is what I'd look for in a software solution. And I'm also able to help them understand the landscape a little bit better. I think actually, as a positive, that differentiator will decrease as the team grows in their comfort and familiarity with the drone market.
Right.
But the drone market's not that dissimilar from what I've talked about before about government sales. It doesn't stay the same.
Right.
There's probably a new drone company every day.
Yeah.
And so I think the other half of my value is bringing that tenacity and same kind of like startup grit to the team that I have from my prior experiences.
Yeah. Yep. And so for those of you who may not understand what she was talking about before, most drones have relied on GPS. GPS can be interrupted. Can you talk about that a little bit in terms of just to educate people so they understand really the challenges in the value prop you guys have?
Yeah.
In trying to solve that problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So GPS can't be relied on anymore globally. And that's not just when somebody's jamming. It's not just when you have a near peer adversary fighting you. You can buy jammers on Amazon now. Yeah. And you're seeing that on the border with the cartel, or they're using jammers. But you don't even need anybody trying to stop you from using GPS. If you go driving in like rural Texas and you're trying to use Google Maps, and you're going to have areas where that falls out. And what do you do when that happens? Well, if you grew up, I think probably long ago, you would use paper maps, right? You're going to pull them out and you're going to look at the maps and see where you're going. And drones need to be able to do the same thing. If they lose their GPS or GPS becomes unreliable, like it's coming in and out, or you're starting to, the system is starting to understand it's being spoofed, like it's being told it's at a different location than it is.
Yeah.
It needs to be able to rely on maps. And what Raptor does is it brings the power of our 3D model of the world on board the drone. Now it's preloaded on there. So you don't need connectivity. You don't need an RF signal. It's just already there. And it has that 3D matching. When you do a side by side of the 3D rendering and then what the full motion video off the drone looks like, you almost visually can't tell which is the real and which is the 3D model. And so that enables the drone to stay on course. So you want to minimize that, drifting off to one side, and, you don't want your drone to get lost, because a lot of times they don't have the battery that enables them to go for a walkabout midway on their journey. And so Raptor is part of the solution that enables it to get from where you launch to where you need it to be, which more and more we're seeing the military using drones in warfare. And no matter how cheap you make them, it still hurts if it doesn't make it to where you needed it to go.
Yeah. And so a lot of this technology, it starts with military government uses, but it ends up in the marketplace in not very much time, especially these days. The pace and acceleration of technology deployment out into the private sector is incredible.
Yes.
And so with you in your role of sales leader, and this is fairly new technology, how do you overcome those hurdles early on where people are like, oh, I don't really understand this? Yeah. There's a lot of education involved, I'd imagine. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the drone industry as a whole is a show don't tell industry, more so than like any others, like any like IT software or anything like that. Yeah. And so we do a lot of flight demonstrations. We do a lot of, free evaluation licenses, because we're not going to convince anybody that this technology works by showing you PowerPoint.
Right.
You need to see it fly. You need to see it fly on a drone that fits your operational needs. Like if I showed you on an FPV drone, which is a first-person view drone, the small ones that folks use like a video game.
Yeah.
If I showed you that, but your drone that you're going to be using is a big, giant Group 5 size MQ-9 size drone, you're not going to be able to visualize it. So the demos have to be on the right kinds of platforms, and it has to be in the right kind of operational environment. Yeah. Because then otherwise people are going to be like, well, what about foliage? Or what about there's a pond over here? Is it still going to work? The only way you can get past that is showing them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the reason why I asked that question is there are people listening to this that can't even relate to what you're talking about, but I want them to understand and make that connection that, yeah, when I'm selling, I sell something that's way simpler, whatever, but I have the same problems. I have to overcome it the same way, you know, and so that's important, that we all need to understand that we all have the same struggles. There's so much commonality in what we're doing as salespeople, sales leaders. The approach is the same.
It is.
You have to build a really good team. You have to be able to communicate. You have to build relationships. So as you're building your team, how do you go about building that to make sure they've got that skill set that you're looking for? And if they don't, maybe they have some gaps. How do you fill those gaps?
Yeah, I love to have a diversity background on my team, because I cover the entire globe. So one size, if everybody was the same, then we're not going to be able to cover the globe really well. So I'm looking for people that come from either the same background as our customers or adjacent backgrounds, or they're like the kind of empathetic people that like can pick up a culture of a customer really quickly. So I look for that as well. And then I'm looking for somebody who has that intellectual curiosity, because our sales, like everybody else's sales, are not about selling our product. It's about solving the customer's problem. And you can't get there if you're the kind of salesperson who forgot to ask any questions. And so sometimes it gets back to the basics of, did you ask more questions than you talked? And did you walk away really understanding what's the pain that we're trying to fix? Because Raptor is a pain reliever. It's not like a piece of candy. So we're trying to solve a real pain point for the customers. But if you can't assume you understand it just because GPS jamming is prevalent everywhere. You have to have a sales team that really digs in and understands in DoD talk, we say ConOps, which is a concept of operations. Like, how are they using your drones, and where in that flow is GPS jamming the biggest concern to them? And how can Raptor be that pain pill for them in that ConOps?
Right. Now, I love that. And I love the diversity of building your team. My dad was this very senior, he's long retired now, but he was a very senior executive at Citibank. He had global technology operations that he managed. And I was talking to him about that one time, like how you build your team. He's like, Chris, I learned a long time ago, the best technologists, the best developers are people with music backgrounds,
Really?
that come from music degrees that, hey, I want to get into tech. He's like, they make the best developers. And so it's like, as leaders, we have to be open to that,
Yeah,
that it's not just, hey, here's this narrow little wedge that I'm looking for. We need to cast the net wide and look for that diversity, because you never know what nuggets you're going to find.
exactly. Yeah, no, I love that, the musician idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, I remember that, like when I'm looking at resumes, I'm looking for those backgrounds. That's not just about technical skills or sales skills or whatever.
Mhm.
What else do you bring to the table?
Yeah.
It's the same way as selling, right? We don't want to
Mhm.
just have cookie cutters, in terms of like we're the same as all our competition. We have to find
Yeah,
ways to stand out.
exactly.
Yeah. So tell me about most favorite thing about your job on
Mhm.
a personal level, and your least favorite thing about your job on a personal level.
I love this question because I think it's the same, it's the same core coin, different sides.
Right.
My favorite thing about my job right now is that I get to work with people across the globe, and it is fascinating to be able to spend in just one day sitting in my office in Northern Virginia, that I can talk to people from literally across the globe.
Yeah.
And then my least favorite thing is that I am on calls at some of the weirdest times of days. I'm doing that. It's not every day, but I don't stay up well. So I always struggle with the late calls.
Yeah. 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 We have teams. I have teams in India. I have a team in Bangladesh. We're starting to get a team going in Ukraine. I feel, I feel
Yeah.
the same.
They do it too. So like I
Oh yeah.
remember my lead in Singapore, I had a call with him in my evening.
Yeah.
I went to bed, slept a full like 7 hours, and I had a call in the morning, and he had not finished his workday. Like he has
Yeah.
still working. So there's some like shared suffering
Oh
camaraderie that
yeah.
you get from it, because I think that they actually suffer more being on the American schedule than we do on theirs. And so it gives you that empathy for how hard it is for them to work in so far away from everybody.
Oh, I try to be very sensitive to that, because there'll be time I'm like, wait a minute, I'll look at the clock. I'm like, guys, is it at like 11 p.m. on a Friday night for you? Like, oh
Yeah.
yes, Chris, it's okay. I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. My my lead in Korea will be on deal review calls at 1 a.m. his time, and he's on there with, he's dressed nice and he's prepared and he's ready
Yeah.
to go.
Yeah.
And so the only thing I can do is try to make sure he can go first so he can drop
Yeah.
off after.
Yeah, exactly. It is a global world these days. And so it's very important that, as leaders, we have that empathy and that recognition.
Hmm.
And because I truly believe it is a lot harder for them than it is for us.
Yeah, I just did a trip to Korea 2 weeks ago, and I had to be on calls back home. And I thought I had empathy before, but actually doing what they do
Yeah.
really, really crystallized that for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. You don't have to live it very long to go. This kind of sucks.
2 nights. I was like, I don't know, you guys deserve like a bouquet of flowers once a quarter or something for what you
Oh
do.
yeah. Yeah. It's like this. Yeah. This kind of sucks. Like, I'm tired. I just want to go to bed.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah. That's awesome. How do you build a team in a way that you're giving them a path to advance in their careers? And what are some of the things that you're doing to help that growth?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think step one is understanding their goals. I think it's easy as leaders to kind of do a mirror image bias and assume that they want the same career that you have that
Right.
got you to where you're sitting. But I have found that you really have to ask to know what they want, because they may not want that. There's a real career path you can take and stay to be an individual contributor. So step one for me is understanding what their goals are so that I can support it. And then step two is making sure that they have the exposure to, the senior leadership things is the best way I would put it. Like what kind of work you do as a leader and what kind of exposure you have to the executive leadership team is going to be another way for them. Because it's not just, getting them on a path to being a leader. It's also part of it's making sure that they have enough exposure to know that it's still something they want to do
Right.
before they make the full commitment to it.
Yeah. Because it is a different world. Going from a contributor to a leader, it's very different.
Yeah. And there's a lot, if you are a passionate seller, it can be really hard to be in a lot of meetings that are about, forecasting and budgets and AOP. And you're not spending as much time with your customers. You're not at every, drone demo anymore. And that can be, a little bit of a hard transition for some folks. And they have to confirm that it's what they really want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the reasons we tapped you for coming on the podcast is one of our missions is to have as many women sales leaders on the show as we can. I personally believe there's not enough women that have made it to the top of the pyramid. So when we find someone like you, we want you on the show. Why do you think it's so hard, or why there's not as many women sales leaders as there should be?
I have often wondered that as somebody who hires, is that why when I put out a rec, do I get so few women applying? But the women that I do find are phenomenal. It's been a real mystery, and I don't have a perfect answer for it other than it's hard as a woman to do this.
Yep. I do have an answer for you on this. We actually discussed it on the show with other women sales leaders. There's been research that's been done when there's a job rec out there. If a guy sees that rec and there's 10 requirements, if he's got 3 of them, he's going to apply.
Yeah.
Women only apply if they have all 10.
Right.
And so I think part of it is how we structure the job recs, but also we need women to understand you don't have to have all 10.
You don't.
To apply. You don't.
Yeah.
And so take the leap, and I talked to my daughter about that, and my nieces, it's like, go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. You can do it. And so I think that's one of the reasons. There's probably a lot, but yeah.
I think it's also that women should understand, and I think the message should go to more like, the younger set is that you're going to be better at sales than the average man.
Yeah.
Like all women, this intuitively because you've been around men and you've been in meetings with men and that you listen more. You have a higher degree generally. I'm not trying to use absolute, but you generally have more empathy.
Yep.
And these are all things that you can kind of use in sales in a way that you may not expect that you're better at it. And you think that sales is just Patagonia vests and bro time. And a lot of times you have to live through that, but that's not every part of it. And and I honestly think that we would all be better off if more women were in this field.
I 100% believe that. I've got the proof on the episodes on my show. I've had some incredible women that are just crushing it, absolutely crushing it as sales leaders.
Yeah.
And so that's proof. And so I went a little bit long there because it's important to me that we talk about that, but I'm going to shift topics a little bit. CRM, do you love it or do you hate it?
I used to hate it, but as a leader, I love it because when I was talking before about being a shield for my team, my shield is actually made of CRM because if I don't have my team using CRM, I don't have anything to protect them, and they're going to get pinged a lot of questions. They're going to get a lot of scrutiny, and CRM is the shield. And if it's not in the pipeline, it's not real.
Yeah.
So that's why I love it, is because it is what enables me to not have to email my team 13 questions every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how you said that CRM is their shield. When it's done right, it truly is.
Yeah.
And when it's right, I get when I have so many people when I ask that question on the show, they give that same answer. I used to hate it, And I really believe the reason why you hate it so much is it's a burden as a salesperson when it's not done the right way.
Yeah.
It's manual, it's taxing. I want to be selling. I want to be doing what's adding value. I don't want to be a data entry clerk.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's, I think, one of the key issues with CRM still today is from the perspective of the salesperson, it's not truly enabling me to sell more. More often than not, I'm putting in data that's just feeding reports for leadership, and which is great. There's that need and that purpose for that. But how do we structure it in a way that we achieve more of a balance? And that's the hard part. What are some of the things that you do with CRM to truly make it an enabler for your team?
I think one of the things that I do is try to reduce the amount of required fields down to the things I actually need, so that they aren't spending any time putting data into fields that even if I only occasionally need it, I won't require it, because I'd rather ask the occasional question than make them have to write any narrative or put data in that isn't useful to me. So I try to do that. And then I also try to combine it with an ample amount of pipeline discussions with me and the team, so that I can represent the ambiguities that CRM doesn't capture. Because PGO and PWin are fantastic, but if PGO is 50% and I can't articulate why, those are things I'm only going to get through conversation.
Yep. Awesome. We've hit our time limit here on Sales Lead Dog. It has been absolutely fantastic having you on here, Kara. I really appreciate you coming on the show. If people want to reach out and connect with you, if they want to learn more about what you're doing with Raptor or Vantor, the company, what's the best way for them to do that?
The two ways you could do it would be come through my LinkedIn, or if you go to the Vantor website, there's a Raptor page and there's a form you can fill out there. That also comes to my email. So either way will get to me. Awesome.
If you didn't catch that, don't worry about it. We will have it in our show notes. You can get that at impellercrm.com/Sales Lead Dog. We get not only this episode, but all our episodes of Sales Lead Dog. Be sure to check that out. Please be sure to reach out and connect with Kara, and also subscribe so you get all our future episodes of Sales Lead Dog. We greatly appreciate that. Kara, thank you again for coming on Sales Lead Dog, and welcome to the Sales Lead Dog Pack.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
As we end this discussion on Sales Lead Dog, be sure to subscribe to catch all our episodes. On social media, follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Watch the videos on YouTube, and you can also find our episodes on our website at impellercrm.com/Sales Lead Dog. Sales Lead Dog is supported by Impeller CRM, delivering objectively better CRM for business, guaranteed.